It didn't end on a football pitch. It didn't end with a final whistle, a handshake, or a long walk back to the tunnel. It ended in a stadium in Kansas City where Iran's players weren't even present, watching from a distance as a 93rd minute equalizer in a match between Austria and Algeria extinguished the very last flicker of hope that their extraordinary, agonizing, and utterly unforgettable World Cup campaign might somehow survive. A 3-3 draw in a game Iran had no part in, against opponents Iran had never faced, after 90 minutes of football that had absolutely nothing to do with the Black Stars of Asia. That is how it ended, and after everything this team went through across 3 weeks in North America, the way their elimination arrived felt like one final unnecessary cruelty from a tournament that had already tested them in ways no squad should ever have to be tested. Then Mehdi Taremi spoke, and everything changed. Because what Iran's captain said in the hours following that elimination, about FIFA, about the promises that were made and then broken, about the conditions his team was forced to compete under at the biggest tournament in their sport's history, transformed what had been a story of sporting heartbreak into a direct and personal confrontation with the governing body that was supposed to be protecting them. Stay with us, because what Taremi revealed is not just about Iran. It is about what FIFA owes every single team it invites to compete under its name. First, let's look at what actually happened on the pitch, because the football Iran produced at this World Cup deserves to be seen and appreciated clearly before anything else is said about the circumstances surrounding it. 3 matches, 3 draws, 0 defeats. In a group that contained Belgium, the highest ranked European nation in their pool and one of the tournament's pre-competition favorites, Iran never lost a single game. In a group stage that sent 16 full nations home, Iran's record remained unbeaten from start to finish. They drew 1-1 with New Zealand in their opener. They held Belgium to a goalless draw in a match where they created what many would argue was the most inventive and technically brilliant goal of the entire group stage, before VAR ruled it out. And they drew 1-1 with Egypt in an injury time drama that crammed more heartbreak into 90 minutes than most teams experience across an entire tournament. A missed penalty, a header that rattled the post, a VAR disallowed goal in the 93rd minute, a crossbar struck in the final seconds, all of it in one match. Across all 3 games, the statistics told the story of a team that deserved significantly more than the 3 points they walked away with. The goals that were created and then taken back. The moments that should have counted and didn't. The football that filled the stadiums while the scoreboard stayed empty. And all of it produced while carrying conditions that not a single other team at this tournament was asked to carry. Now, Taremi has spoken about those conditions, and what he revealed has landed like a thunderclap across the football world. Gianni Infantino, the president of FIFA, personally visited the Iranian team's locker room following their opening match against New Zealand. He came in person. He sat down with the squad and the coaching staff. And according to Taremi, he made a promise, a direct, face-to-face promise from the single most powerful man in world football, that the issues surrounding Iran's travel arrangements and match preparation would be addressed, that progress would be made, that the situation would improve. It did not improve. Match after match, the same conditions applied. The team traveled to host cities from their base in Tijuana, Mexico, arriving under tight timeframes that left them with less preparation time than any of their opponents. The recovery support that professional athletes at this level depend on, the logistics, the medical staff, the physical rehabilitation, resources that separate a properly prepared squad from one running on empty and was not consistently available in the way that Taremi and his teammates needed it to be. The captain's words were pointed and completely clear. He told the world that the president of FIFA had walked into their changing room and made promises. And he told the world that those promises were not kept. Think carefully about what that means. This is not a vague complaint about difficult circumstances or general dissatisfaction. This is a player naming a specific individual who gave a specific assurance and explaining in plain, direct language exactly how that assurance was not honored. It is a direct accusation against the organization that runs this tournament. And it is coming from the captain of a team that gave absolutely everything they had on the football pitch while fighting obstacles that their opponents never had to think about for a single second. The formal complaint that Iran's Football Federation had already submitted to FIFA weeks earlier, the formally requesting equal treatment in terms of preparation time and travel logistics, had received no official public response by the time their tournament came to an end. The organization, whose president had reportedly promised progress in a locker room conversation, had not communicated any of that progress to the outside world. And now, with Iran eliminated and their players finally free to speak without the fear that their words might cost them something they were still fighting for, the captain broke his silence. The football Iran produced makes that silence feel even more significant looking back. Go back to the Belgium match and the moment that should have been the goal of the entire tournament. Captain Ehsan Hajsafi reading the defensive wall and threading a pass through the Belgian defensive line that nobody in the stadium saw coming. Mehdi Taremi controlling the ball, pivoting, and driving a low shot past Thibaut Courtois with the kind of technique and composure that elite football perhaps produces once in a generation. The net moved. The stadium erupted. VAR drew a line across a frozen frame and found Taremi's shoulder, not his foot, not his knee, his shoulder, marginally beyond the last Belgian defender. The goal was disallowed. Against Egypt in what became the match that would decide their entire tournament fate, the heartbreak concentrated itself into a single devastating evening. Taremi won a penalty and stepped up with the chance to put Iran ahead. The goalkeeper guessed correctly and made the save. In the 89th minute, Taremi rose to meet a cross and powered a header toward goal. The ball struck the post and bounced away. In the 93rd minute, Shoja Khalilzadeh rose magnificently and headed the ball into the net. Iran had won it. The bench erupted. The supporters were already celebrating. VAR intervened. Khalilzadeh's position was judged offside by the narrowest of margins. The goal was disallowed, and in the final seconds, a shot from 6 yards out struck the crossbar. The final whistle blew at 1-1, and Iran headed back to Mexico, making the same overnight journey that had punctuated their entire campaign, to wait for results elsewhere to decide whether 3 points would be enough, one by one. The doors closed. Croatia defeated Ghana, Congo beat Uzbekistan, and in Kansas City, Algeria and Austria produced a match that lurched through 3-1, then 3-2, and ultimately landed at 3-3, with Sasa Kalajdzic's equalizer deep in the 93rd minute slamming shut the last remaining window through which Iran might have passed. Iran finished 9th in the 3rd place rankings. The top 8 advanced. They fell one position short of the history that reaching the round of 32 would have represented for their country. Iran had never in 7 World Cup appearances made it out of the group stage. They came closer than they have ever come. They came unbeaten. They came having played football that generated a higher expected goals total than their points ever reflected, having held one of Europe's strongest teams to a goalless draw, having created moments of genuine brilliance on the biggest stage in their sport. And they came under conditions that their own captain has now described publicly and directly as a breach of the promises made to them by the president of the very organization responsible for those conditions. The question that remains, and that FIFA has still not answered, is what happens next. Iran's formal complaint is on the record. Taremi's words are on the record. The locker room promise that Infantino reportedly made after the New Zealand match is on the record. The absences of recovery staff, the preparation difficulties, the repeated exhausting travel from Tijuana, all of it now forms part of a documented body of evidence about how this team's campaign actually unfolded, that the entire football world can read in full. Coach Amir Galanoy, speaking after the elimination was confirmed, found the sentence that his entire group stage had been quietly building toward. He said he did not believe any team in the world could have endured the conditions his squad faced and still played the way they played. He was right, and the football they produced, unbeaten, creative, emotionally resilient, technically accomplished, against opponents who had every possible preparation advantage, proves it beyond any argument. Iran came to this World Cup for the 7th time in their nation's history. Having tried and failed to advance from the group stage on every previous occasion, they left with the same statistical outcome on paper, but an entirely different story underneath it. They left unbeaten. They left with 2 VAR disallowed goals, a crossbar, a post, and a saved penalty sitting in the columns that the scoreboard never captured. They left with Mehdi Taremi's voice now raised directly against the organization that promised them more than it ever delivered. FIFA will respond eventually. It always does, in carefully worded official statements that reference what was provided, what was attempted, and what the formal record shows. But the official record does not include what was said inside a locker room after a group stage match by the president of the world's most powerful football organization to a group of players who took his word seriously. Iran trusted that word, and Mehdi Taremi has made absolutely certain that the football world knows exactly what happened when they did.